Welcome to Storytellers Anthropology. Today's topic is about research methodology. Hello everyone, hope you all are doing well. Today we are about to discuss about research methodology. Introduction. Research is to see what everybody else has seen and to think what nobody else has thought by Albert St. George. Research methodology in anthropology encompasses the strategies and techniques anthropologists use to study human societies, cultures, and biological aspects. The field relies on both qualitative and quantitative methods, often integrating multiple approaches to gain a comprehensive understanding of human life. Methods of social cultural anthropology: observation as a method, case study method, genealogy method, and tools and techniques. Observation is further divided into three parts: participation observation, non-participant observation, quasi-participant observation. Participant observation owes its subsistence to Malinowski, who studied among the Trobriand islanders of Papua New Guinea, set the benchmark for fieldwork in anthropology. Malinowski had stated, in order to participate in the everyday activities of the community, one has to cut oneself off from the company of other white men and remaining in as close contact with the natives as possible, which really can only be achieved by camping right in their villages by Malinowski 1922. This was one of the classic ways to carry out observation, and to a certain extent, it is right to state that in order to connect with the people under study, one needs to live the lives of those peoples. Participant observation. In non-participant observation, the researcher observes the activities of the community under study from a distance without getting directly involved. Here, the researcher is detached and does not experience the lives of the people under study. The researcher here records observations and data as an outsider, viewing the activities in an objective manner, whereas if the observer participates and gets involved both physically and emotionally, the observation becomes subjective in nature. Quasi-participant observation. In most cases, the observation conducted by researchers in the field is known as quasi-participant observation, as complete participation in many cases is not possible. Many a times it is not possible for the researcher to get directly involved in the field situation. For example, while studying the rites of passage in a community, a researcher may closely observe the initiation rituals being performed for the boys or girls. However, the researchers cannot in person go through the initiation rites. Thus, even though there is participation, yet it is not complete. Case study method. Herbert Spencer was the first sociologist to use case material in his ethnographic work. A case study involves an in-depth research of a particular event, incident, or phenomena where a community or a group of people are directly involved or affected. Let us take the example of the Bhopal gas tragedy, which happened in Bhopal on 3rd December 1984. One can study the after effects of the tragedy in terms of either of the following: physical issue, biological issue, psychological issues, medico-legal issues. Genealogical method helps in tracing the line of descent. It forms an integral part of anthropological fieldwork as it connects the past to the present. Genealogical studies have also unveiled the myths and beliefs associated with ancestors and ancestor worship. For example, during a genealogical study in a Karbi village, it was seen that many people in the family shared the same name. The genealogy revealed that newborn in a family could be named only after those ancestors for whom the Chomagnan ritual related to ancestor worship ceremony had been performed. As the Chomagnan ceremony required a huge amount of funds and finances, the Karbis have almost stopped performing this ritual, and in the village, the last Champagnan had taken place some 20 years ago. Interview. Interviewing, according to Good and Hart, 1981, is fundamentally a process of social interaction. In a field situation, it is not enough to observe. Observation needs to be linked to questioning for phenomena, incidents, and events. There are many ways of conducting an interview, as there are many types of interviews. The basic interview techniques are: direct interview, the researchers meet the informant and conducts a face-to-face interview. Indirect interview, the researcher can either send the interview questions to the informant via mail or post, email, or conduct a video, web or telephonic interview or Google form. Direct interview may be either formal or informal. In a formal interview, a researcher needs to follow certain protocols, such as the following: take prior appointment with the person to be interviewed, take consent of the informant, decide on a space and time for the interview. In many cases, the length of the interview time is also pre-decided. Such interviews involve key stakeholders like government officials or renowned persons. There are different types of interview method: individual or group interview, structured or non-structured interview, formal or informal interview, interview with schedule or without schedule, according to the length of time, short-term interview, and long-term or prolonged or depth interview. From the pathological point of view, interview are two types: diagnostic and treatment interview. The physical or biological methods of data collection are anthropometry method, somatoscopy, and serology. Anthropometry method. The history of scientific anthropometry goes back to the time of Blumenbach, father of physical anthropology. Anthropometry means the measurement of man, whether living or dead. It primarily consists of the measurement of the dimensions of the body. Anthropometry is divided into somatometry and osteometry. Somatometry is the measurement of the living body or the cadaver, including head and face. The term cephalometry is used when the measurements are of the head and face. Osteometry is the measurement of the skeletal bones other than the skull. The term kiniometry is used when the measurements are of the skull and face only. Osteology deals with the study of the bones of the whole skeleton. Somatometric measurements are different kinds: linear, guard, skinfold measurements, weight measurements, and so on. The instruments are used: spreading caliper or Martin caliper for taking measurements where curved areas are involved, such as head and face; sliding caliper Martin for taking measurements of the body, blunt end, and the bone segment; anthropometer Martin caliper for taking larger linear measurements, stature. Here you see the picture of anthropometer. Rod compass for taking longer breadth measurements, head height needle for ascertaining the mid-sagittal plane, parallelometer for measuring head height, tape for taking girth measurements of the body and bones, skin fold caliper for measuring the thickness of skin folds at different parts of the body, weighing machine for recording weight of the subject. Most of the measurements are taken from one landmark to another. Sometimes the subject stands and sometimes he or she is asked to sit while taking measurements. Paired measurements are generally taken on the left side, as it is less likely to be affected by other factors such as occupational deformity. A large number of indices can be calculated in somatometry by taking into account various measurements to look at relationship between. Somatoscopy, the systematic visual observations of physical features of the different parts of the human body, is known as somatoscopy. These observations are made for precise descriptions which are mostly qualitative. somatoscopic observations aid in identifying racial or ethnic type. Some of the important somatoscopic traits are skin color, head hair, beard, mustache, eye, forehead, supraorbital ridges, molars, lips, nose, ear, chin, angles of lower jaw and earlobe. Generally, most of the somatoscopic traits are visually observed. However, in case of skin color, color charts or spectrophotometer is used. Color charts are also used for another things. Serology is about blood. There are 13 or 15 different types of blood group. They are determined on the basis of antigens present in the red blood cell, which are inherited. Populations differs in the proportions of different blood groups as there is individual variations. Basically, serology is a scientific study of blood. Here we all discuss only about AB and RH blood group. ABL blood group classified by antigen A and B. The ABL blood group are classified into the following: A group have antigen, B group has antigen B, AB group has both A and B antigen, O group has no antigen. In the ABO system, antibodies occur in the serum since the time of birth. Group A have anti-B antibodies in the serum. Group B have antibodies in their serum. Group O have both the antibodies. Group AB have no antibodies. The used instrument for serological ABO test tube, prickling needles, capillary pipettes, beaker, centrifuge, reagent agents, normal saline 0.85% solution of NaCl, standard anti-A and anti-B sera. RH blood group, it is discovered by Landsteiner and Wiener in 1940 from rabbits, from Macaca mulatta, a rhesus monkey. These antibodies would agglutinate the red blood cells of all rhesus monkeys. This antibody is called anti-D. Antigen D is the most commonly involved one in problems of blood transfusion and certain pregnancies. This antibody agglutinated in the red cells of nearly 85% of European population. Archaeological anthropological data collection method. Famous archaeologist V. Gordon Childe defines it as the study of all changes in the material world that are due to human action. Childe, 1956. Material remains of early men are found in the form of artifacts. Artifacts are defined as things men have made and unmade. These include movable items such as tools, weapons and personal ornaments, and immovable items such as houses, temples, palaces, canals. The first task for an archaeological anthropologist is to classify these artifacts. The method of classification, also known as taxonomy or typotechnology. There are three types of methodological approach in archaeology: site survey or exploration, excavation, laboratory analysis. Site survey is an extensive research method in which the archaeologist observes and records ancient remains exposed on the ground surface. Usually, teams of researchers systematically sweep the countryside to find each place of historic and prehistoric occupations. Each find spot is called a site. The research goal of site surveys to discover and systematically record all the evidences of human landscape modification within a locality, region, etc. Excavation is an most important part of archaeological data collection method. The layout of the trench by PEG marking is an important first step in the excavation. After a detailed study and observation, the excavator will decide where the trench will be laid. Normally, the highest point or the most elevated part of the site would be preferable as it would give the maximum accumulation of the occupational strata from the earliest to the latest or the faces of its layers. Vertical excavation and horizontal excavation. Vertical excavation has another name substantive trenching. This is useful when the area of dig is small and the objective is more to know the vertical sequence of cultures than to have fuller picture of each and every face. Generally, in this system, a rectangular trench of 10 into 8 or 30 into 20 feet may be laid outlined with two parallel rows of 1 meter. The PGS peaks on one side may be numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on, whereas corresponding PGS on the other side would be as 0, same as Roman 1, 2, 3, 4. If in the course of excavation it is felt necessary to extend the trench backward from 0, the PGS peaks of the extended sides can be marked ABCD on the side and ABCD inverted comma on the other side. Here the picture of vertical excavation. The actual excavation should be done about 50 semi inside the PG line on all sides. In fact, the actual area to be excavated should be marked with the string lines all around. Digging should not extend up to the PG line, but methods, tools and techniques should stop within the cutting line. This is done in order to keep the PGS peaks and the peg line undisturbed throughout excavation. Another important feature in this method is to leave a number of intermediary blocks at regular interval after every 3 meters. This helps having proper control over the digging correlating the sectors, besides facilitating access to different parts of the trench for the supervisors and laborers. Recording the artifacts and other features in the excavation is done by what Wheeler calls as the three-dimensional measurements. The three-dimensional measurements serve to pinpoint the exact location of each object found in the trench and help recording the stratigraphic position. These measurements are recorded in 3 dimensions as longitudinal, horizontal or lateral, downward or depth. The measurements of each object can be recorded as 1.2 into 0.50 into 2.5. The first unit represents the PG number and the other 3 represent the 3 measurement. The envelopes into which the antiquities are to be labeled in such a way that it should contain these measurements so that any time their exact location and their stratigraphical position can be known without doubt or ambiguity. With the help of measurement, we can reconstruct the location of the objects according to the plan and the stratigraphy. Horizontal excavation. For horizontal or area excavation, 2 ways of investigation or layout are followed. The grid system, in which a series of squares of uniform size is laid out, stripping complete area without the aid of square divisions or bars. British archaeologists such as Wheeler and Kenyon popularized the former method. Open stripping has gained popularity in recent years, especially in the United States of America. Here the picture of horizontal excavation in data collection of archaeological anthropology. The grid divides the area into a series of exact squares that are parallel to the side baseline and to the datum line. This orientation is necessary because it enables the archaeologist to describe accurately any point on the side in relation to the south-north axis. The size of the square boxes will depend on the depth to the excavated. Normally 5 to 10 meters square will be reasonable. The squares are separated by box, unexcavated strips or partitions of uniform width of 50 semi or 1 meter depending on the nature of the soil. They help the excavator in correlation stratigraphy from the different parts of the site. Ultimately, the blocks have also to be removed if necessary, as they should never allow covering any structural features. After the grid is laid out, the PG marks are done accurately. They can be conveniently named by means of letters or on direction and by numbers in the orders, like A1, A2, A3, A4 or B1, B2, B3, B4 and so on. The peak at the junction of 4 squares will have 4 different names for its 4 faces, like A1, A2, B1, B2, etc. Ethnoarchaeological method. In this method, example form present are compared with prehistoric findings to establish the function, use, and perhaps thought process behind the making of similar artifacts. For example, the material culture of the present hunter-gatherer communities may throw light on the use and function of artifacts of earlier periods. It may further be used to understand the livelihood pattern and social spiritual aspects of prehistoric men. But one should be careful in using ethnoarchaeological method which apparently looked similar may not be so. Conservation and preservation method. Archaeological findings of artifacts are priceless. It is need to conserve it and preserve it because it is vulnerable to temperature, humidity, light, air and so on, and also for fungus, pests and insects. So it is the primary responsibility to conserve and preserve the artifacts. The task of managing a museum needs knowledge on aspects such as collection, transportation, physical cleaning, chemical treatment and display. Museologists done this kind of work. Artifacts need to be preserved for research, education and knowledge of the people. It is the study of the people to take proper care and preserve the objects in an appropriate manner so that they can survive for a longer period of time. It is very important to give the conclusion to understand human cultural and biological diversity. Anthropologists have developed different methods, tools and techniques to carry research in the discipline. In this unit, we have discussed various methods of data, social, cultural, biological, physical, etc. like observation, case study, genealogy, questionnaire, schedule, interview, and other like excavation, exploration, site survey, etc. and also about artifacts and past cultures. To understand human evolution, we need to know the methods of data collection of different branch of anthropology. The next topic is about primate study in human evolution. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye and thank you from Storytellers Anthropology.